The photo was grainy, now-faded, printed on cheap drugstore paper, curled at the edges like it wanted to fold in on itself and disappear. 5 of them, huddled together on the edge of the dock, holding red cups and stupid smiles, forever. Frozen in a moment, just before everything changed. Dev in the middle, arms thrown wide. Tessa with her crooked grin. Leo flashing the peace sign. Callie leaning her head on Nathan's shoulder. And behind them, the still black mirror of Lake Harrow. Glinting in the August sun. The date on the back read August 9th, 2017. Mara had stared at that photo every night for the past 8 years. It was the last time anyone saw them together, and the last time she saw her brother Dev alive or otherwise. The world had moved on. The sheriff's office called it a tragic accident. They said the group must have gone night swimming, maybe drinking too much, maybe a riptide, but the lake had no riptide. And only 2 of them came back, Nathan and Callie. Both vanished from the public eye not long after. No bodies, no confessions, just speculation and silence. But not for Mara. She'd been 17 when Dev vanished. Now 25, she ran a small but growing YouTube channel called Gone But Not Silent, where she covered unresolved cold cases, missing persons, and the kind of stories police preferred to forget. Her obsession had become her career, and this year, on the 8th anniversary, she was going back. Not to grieve, to find something, anything. She pulled her car onto the gravel turnout overlooking Lake Harrow, the tires crackling against stone. The water still looked the same wide, bottomless, surrounded by pine and silence. Except now, she wasn't alone. Her backpack held gear, a DSLR, a voice recorder, 3 batteries, and a DJI Phantom 4 Pro drone, white as bone and blinking with anticipation. Mara stood at the water's edge and whispered, "Let's see what you've been hiding." She launched the drone. It hummed like a distant hornet, rising into the air and hovering before arcing toward the lake's center. She followed its flight path on her phone screen, eyes narrowed. For 45 minutes, it found nothing but water, rocks, shadows. She was about to recall it when something flickered in the lower right corner of the screen just for a second. A shape, angular, unnatural. Mara froze. She zoomed in. The drone hovered 50 feet above. A jagged slope on the north end of the lake, an area the divers never fully searched. Beneath the glassy surface, muted by algae and darkness, lay a glint of rusted metal, rectangular, with a broken edge that looked like a windshield. Her breath caught. It looked like a vehicle. She steadied her hands and flew the drone lower, skimming just a few feet above the water. Silt clouded the image, but the shape grew clearer. 4 wheels, a chassis, and what might have been a door ajar. Her heart slammed into her ribs. No way, no freaking way. She hit record. Captured stills, circled once, twice, then brought the drone back, palms slick with sweat. Mara didn't speak for nearly 5 minutes. She just stared at the footage, over and over again, until her brain finally accepted it. Something was down there, and it hadn't been touched in 8 years. That night, she uploaded a teaser video to her channel. Title, "Is There a Car at the Bottom of Lake Harrow?" She showed the drone footage, the GPS coordinates, and the anniversary date. Then she stared into the camera, voice low, tight. "If this is the same SUV Dev and the others were driving, then this isn't a cold case anymore. This is a cover-up." The video went viral in under 24 hours. By morning, the sheriff's department was forced to respond. A dive team was dispatched. News vans rolled in. Mara stood behind the caution tape, filming silently as 2 divers slipped into the lake with oxygen tanks and flashlights. Minutes passed, then 30, then 40, then dash movement. One of the divers breached the surface, waving wildly. The water churned behind him. Mara dropped her phone. The SUV emerged like a carcass pulled from a grave paint stripped, windows shattered, moss clinging to its roof. A red Ford Escape. The exact make Dev had driven. The crowd was silent. The diver leaned toward the sheriff and said something too low to hear. The sheriff's face drained. Then he turned to the crowd. 3 sets of remains were found inside. 3. Not 5. Not even 4. 3. Mara single quotes as knees nearly gave out. Dev was in that car. She knew it. She felt it. But where were the other 2? And, more importantly, who the hell drove the car into the lake? It was the sound of silence breaking that Mara remembered most. The thud of boots against wet soil. Radios crackling. The diver's gear clanking like skeletal armor. And then that unbearable pause, when everyone stared at the vehicle breaching the lake, like a monster surfacing from myth. The crowd had fallen into a trance. Phones raised, eyes wide. A hush so loud it pressed against Mara's skull. The red Ford Escape glistened with algae and rot. The driver's side was bashed in. The windshield a spiderweb of cracks, but none of that compared to what was inside. A detective named Ruiz took the mic with hands that barely stopped shaking. At approximately 9:42 a.m., a submerged vehicle was located at the north edge of Lake Harrow. Inside, 3 sets of human remains were recovered, all in the backseat area. Identification is pending. 3. Mara turned to look at the Lake Agonat, that impossible stillness that had hidden so much for so long. 3 bodies, not 5. So where were the other 2? And more terrifying, who wasn't in that car? Later that afternoon, Mara was pulled aside by a young Deputy Cameron, early 20s, nervous energy. He whispered, the bodies were seatbelted. All 3, backseat only, none in the front. She blinked. So who was driving? He swallowed. That's the thing. Driver's seat was empty. Her blood turned to ice. No driver. No front passenger. Just 3 bodies in the back, like forgotten luggage. Cameron added, and the gear was still in the trunk. Blankets, 2 backpacks. Waterlogged, but intact. She scribbled the note down in her leather-bound journal, the one Dev had gifted her the year before he vanished. It was shaking in her hands. This wasn't a crash, it was a dumping ground, the coroner's report. Came 2 days later. Partial dental matches confirmed the remains belonged to Tessa. Leo and Dev. Mara stared at the report in her inbox for 10 minutes. Before opening it, her hand hovered over her mouse like it didn't belong to her. Her brother was dead. Not missing, not lost, dead, and someone had buckled him into the back seat, like a child going on a road trip. The authorities initially floated a theory, accidental carbon monoxide poisoning. But the SUV wasn't running. The battery was dead. And the bodies weren't positioned like people who'd just fallen asleep. They were sitting upright, arms limp, heads tilted, like they had been placed there staged. 2 days later, Mara released a new video, the thumbnail. A blurry frame of the submerged vehicle. The title, The Lake Spokane It, lied for 8 years. She didn't cry in the video, not even when she said Dev's name, but her voice cracked when she whispered, they found my brother. And they found 2 more, but not all of them. Someone walked away from that night, and someone put those bodies there. This wasn't an accident. This was a burial. The video hit 1 million views in 12 hours, and suddenly, the public wanted answers. Mara received her first anonymous email the next morning. Subject. They weren't all dead when it went in. Sender, no. Reply, lakehouse@protonmail.com. Body. You're asking the wrong question. It's not who was missing. It's who was meant to survive. She read it 3 times. The chill that ran through her wasn't fear. It was recognition. That email didn't come from a stranger. Someone had seen what happened. Someone who wasn't supposed to speak. She contacted the sheriff's office, forwarded the message, and received a canned response. We are investigating all leads. Please do not compromise the case by interfering. She laughed bitterly. They'd buried the case once already. She wasn't about to let them do it again. Mara decided to go deeper. She pulled out the original case. File she'd foyad 2 years ago. Back then, Nathan and Callie had told police the same thing. The others left in the middle of the night. They said they were going to another lake. We never saw them again. No arguing, no mention of fights. Just vague stories about sleeping through the sound of a car leaving at 2 a.m. Police had logged it, shrugged, and moved on. But now there was proof. The others never left alive. Mara stared at the photo again. That goddamn photo. She zoomed in on Callie. Eyes half-lidded, smiled too controlled. One hand clutching Dev's sleeve. Then Nathan. Staring off, not at the camera, but at something behind it. He hadn't looked happy. None of them really had. Now that she saw it, not joy, not peace, tension, the kind that wraps around your throat slowly. Quietly, she knew what she had to do. Next, find the survivors. 8 years had passed, but the truth hadn't aged. Nathan and Callie had returned from that trip and never once explained why the others didn't. Now there was a car full of corpses and a story that didn't make sense, and if either of them was still lying, Mara would find out. She packed her camera, loaded fresh batteries, charged the drone, and typed one word into her laptop's search bar: Callie Harrow disappearance interview. What came up surprised her. There had never been one, not even once. Callie had vanished from public view the moment she came back, changed her number, deleted social media, no trace, no interviews, no grieving. It was as if she'd gone into hiding, which meant she had something to hide. The summer air had smelled like smoke and sunscreen. Dev had been the one to convince them all one last lake trip before college scattered them. In 5 different directions, Callie packed the snacks. Nathan brought the music. Tessa handled the Airbnb. Leo didn't bring anything except his usual chaos, and Dev, he brought the camera. Always in the selfie, they looked invincible. That kind of dumb golden hour happiness only people in their late teens can fake convincingly. But looking back now, years later, Mara could see the edges were already fraying. Callie's smile didn't reach her eyes. Nathan's arm was tense. Where it curled around her shoulder, Leo stood apart, just slightly. And Dev looked like he knew something no one else did. The last confirmed sighting of all 5 had been on the dock of Lake Harrow, drinking spiked cola and burning marshmallows while a Bluetooth speaker played throwback hits. A nearby cabin owner had waved to them. They'd waved back. The next morning, only 2 of them remained. Nathan and Callie. Officially, they had been exhausted and distraught. They said they woke up to find Dev, Leo, and Tessa gone. They must have left in the middle of the night. Callie had told the officer at the time. We thought they were just being dramatic. Or maybe they wanted to hit another lake. Nathan had added, I figured they'd text when they sobered up. But no texts ever came. And now, 8 years later, their bodies had surfaced at the bottom of that lake, seat belted like puppets in the back seat of a sunken car. Mara sat alone in her apartment, every light off except the glow of her laptop screen. Her YouTube dashboard was open, scrolling through thousands of new comments. Callie's lying. You can see it in her eyes. Someone drugged them. This was a setup. What kind of friend doesn't report 3 people missing immediately? She'd asked herself those same questions 1,000 times, and now, with renewed attention and public pressure, Mara had something she never had before. Leads. She found Nathan first. A blurry Reddit post led her to a sublease record in Arizona. 1 phone call and a few $100 to a local researcher, and she had an address. He was living in Flagstaff. Under his real name, alone. She didn't call first. Just drove there with her camera, her notes, and a weight in her chest she hadn't named yet. Nathan opened the door like a man who hadn't slept properly in years. Sunken cheeks, greasy hair, a bottle of something half full just out of frame. She expected him to slam the door, but instead, he blinked once, then twice, then said, I wondered when you'd show up. Inside, the apartment smelled like dust and TV dinners. Empty cans lined the windowsill. The blinds were shut tight. He gestured for her to sit, but didn't sit himself. I'm not going on record, he said immediately. You already are, she replied. Setting her phone to record, he didn't argue. Mara cut straight to it. Why did you say they left in the night? Nathan rubbed his face. Because that's what Callie said, and you believed her. He laughed, bitter. Back then, I would have believed anything she said. She could have told me the stars were just holes in a big black sheet, and I'd have nodded like an idiot. A pause. I didn't think I had a choice. Mara leaned forward. Did something happen that night? Nathan stared at the floor. A muscle twitched in his jaw. She said it was an accident. That they got into a fight. That someone slipped. That it was too late to fix anything. He looked up, eyes glassy. But I never saw anything. Not directly. Did you hear anything? Long silence. Screaming, he reached into a drawer and pulled out a faded photograph. The same one Mara had. I kept this, he said, not to remember them, but to remind myself they're gone. She looked at the photo again. Now it felt like a warning. Mara drove away with a recording that was part confession, part fractured memory. Nathan was breaking. And deep down, she knew he hadn't told her everything. But there was a name that kept resurfacing. Again and again, Callie, the girl who had framed the story, shaped the lie, disappeared the moment the investigation went cold. And Mara had just found her. It was a tech-savvy fan of her channel who tracked Callie down. A digital sleuth with too much time and an obsession with metadata. Callie had changed her name, moved states, married, deleted every trace of her old life. But she'd made one mistake. She'd once posted an anonymous review of a bookstore in Portland, and the account was still linked to an old Reddit username, a reverse lookup, a public voter database. And suddenly, she had a real name and an address. Mara stared at the info on her screen. Callie Renner, formerly Callie Harris. She lived in Oregon now, had a husband, no kids, worked at a local community center, a fresh life, like nothing had ever happened. Mara booked the ticket that night. She wasn't sure what scared her more. That Callie had vanished into a new identity. Or that maybe, just maybe, she'd done so because she had every reason to disappear. The first thing that struck Mara about Callie wasn't how much she'd changed, it was how much she hadn't. Same soft blonde waves. Same slight overbite. Same careful, composed posture the kind people mistake for grace. Not guardedness. She opened the door, wearing an oversized sweater and a face that pretended not to recognize the woman standing on her porch. But she knew. Of course she knew. Mara didn't even have to introduce herself. Callie just stared for a long, heavy second and said, "You shouldn't be here." They sat in the living room. Too quiet, too clean. Like it had been scrubbed of anything messy past or present. A wedding photo on the mantel. Callie in white, a man with kind eyes beside her. Nothing in the room suggested Lake Harrow had ever existed. "I just want your side," Mara said, setting the camera on the table between them. "You never told it, not to the police, not to anyone." Callie sat down slowly, crossed her legs, smoothed the sweater over her lap. "I told the police what happened," she said. "No, you told them what Nathan said happened," Mara replied. "There's a difference." Callie exhaled. It sounded like defeat. The camera light turned red, rolling. Mara didn't speak. She let the silence do the asking. Eventually, Callie folded. "We were drunk," she said, eyes flicking to the lens. And then away. They left. Around 2 a.m, Tessa said something about another lake. Leo was driving. Dev didn't want to go, but he followed them. "You didn't try to stop them?" "No." Callie's hands twisted in her lap. "I was tired. I thought they'd be back by sunrise. They weren't. I know." Her voice cracked, just slightly, on the last word. Mara zoomed in a notch on the lens. "You and Dev were close," she said carefully. "Closer than the others knew." Callie didn't respond. "Were you in love with him?" That was when the silence turned into a scream. Not aloud, just in the space between her expression and the pause that followed. Callie blinked once. Twice, her fingers froze. Then she smiled. But it was a lie. I was dating Nathan, she said. That's not what I asked. Callie didn't answer. Mara leaned forward. Her voice softened, but her words sharpened. Dev's body was found in the back seat. Seatbelted, dried blood on his collar. 2 others beside him. No one in the front, no one driving. You expect me to believe they left in the night and crashed by themselves? I don't expect you to believe anything, Callie snapped. You've already made up your mind. This is for views, isn't it? Another episode. This is for Dev, Mara said coldly. He was my brother. You were supposed to be his. Friend. Callie looked away. Mara killed the camera. You're hiding something, she said. And I don't think it's just guilt. Callie stood, walked to the window, pulled the curtain back an inch. My husband doesn't know, she whispered. About the lake, about what happened, then maybe it's time he did. Callie turned. Her face was different now, harder, colder. You don't understand what it was like that night. The fear, the panic, you weren't there. Then tell me. Help me understand. Callie didn't move. The fight started after midnight, she said finally. Tessa and Leo were arguing loud. Dev tried to calm them down, but her voice faded. But what? But he got pulled into it. Tessa said something about us. About me and Dev. Mara's eyes narrowed. So it was true. Callie didn't deny it. We never meant for it to happen, she said. It was just one night. Before the trip, it didn't mean anything. But it did mean something, Mara said. To Nathan, to Leo, maybe even to Dev. Callie's jaw clenched. We didn't kill them. I didn't say you did. The air shifted. For a second, Mara saw the mask slip. Saw the fear behind. The polish. The way Callie's fingers trembled when she reached for a glass of water. The way she hadn't taken a full breath since the interview began. Someone put their bodies in that SUV, Mara said. Someone buckled them in and drove it into the lake. And you and Nathan walked away like nothing happened. Callie shook her head. You think you know what happened, but you don't. You didn't see Leo's face. You didn't hear Tessa scream. What about Dev? That hit her like a slap. Mara rose from the couch. I'm going to find out the truth, Callie, with or without you. Callie followed her to the door, but didn't open it. Her voice came out barely audible. If you keep digging, someone's going to get hurt. Already too late for that, Mara said. Callie stepped aside. Mara walked out into the cool Oregon air, her mind racing. But just as she reached her car, Callie's voice stopped her. He wasn't supposed to die. Mara turned. Who? But Callie had already shut the door. Back at her hotel, Mara watched the footage over and over. Callie's answers were polished, but her body told another story. Every twitch, every crack in her voice. The way she avoided Dev's name, like it burned. And that final line. He wasn't supposed to die, not they, he. That wasn't panic, that was regret. And it was specific. Mara uploaded a teaser clip that night. Nothing to direct, just a close-up of Callie's hand shaking against the glass. And a caption. She says she didn't love him. She says it was an accident. But her smile was a lie. The video crossed 300,000 views by morning. She knew the next step. Nathan had cracked. Callie was crumbling. But there was still one person no one had heard from since that night. And something told her, if the truth was ever going to surface, it was going to come from the night of the fire. They say memory lies. That trauma edits, things erases, blurs, distorts. But some memories stick with crystal clarity, sights, sounds. The exact way someone looked at you before everything broke. The night of the fire at the lake house was one of those memories. The bonfire crackled behind them, painting the sand in warm orange light. Beer bottles clinked. A Bluetooth speaker hummed something lazy and nostalgic, an old 2010s indie track that had no business sounding that ominous. Dev was laughing. Callie sat across from him, eyes locked. Nathan beside her, blissfully unaware. Tessa dozed in a hammock. Nearby, half a bottle of wine tipping from her hand. Leo was pacing the sand barefoot, stoking the fire like it owed him something. It was supposed to be perfect. There last night, no drama, just friends. Until Leo opened his mouth. You guys think you're so slick, he said suddenly, loud enough to kill the mood. Nathan looked up, blinking. What? Leo grinned, teeth sharp in the firelight. I mean, really? You thought we wouldn't notice? Tessa stirred in the hammock. Dev straightened. Callie froze. What are you talking about? Nathan asked, cautious. Leo kicked sand. At the fire, Dev and Callie, he said. They hooked up. Before the trip, you really didn't know. The silence that followed felt radioactive. Nathan turned to Callie, his expression crumbling in real time. Is that true? Callie opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Dev stood. Leo, that's not your business. Like hell, it isn't. Leo snapped. Tessa told me. She walked in on you. You didn't even care, did you? You were gonna sit here all weekend and just pretend like nothing happened. Shut up, Dev hissed. Nathan was on his feet now too. Callie, tell me he's lying. Her hands were shaking. She looked at Nathan, then at Dev. It was a mistake. Wrong answer. Nathan's fist landed before anyone could stop him. Dev stumbled backward, blood on his lip. Tessa bolted upright in the hammock. Dazed. Leo backed away like he hadn't just lit the fuse. Callie was crying now, mascara running. Stop, please, just stop. Dev wiped his mouth. You want to do this, Nathan? You think a punch is going to fix this? You lied to me, Nathan seethed. Both of you. Dev shook his head. You were never really in it. Not with her. You just liked the idea of her. Better than sneaking around like a coward, Nathan spat. Callie screamed. It didn't mean anything. But her voice cracked on the word mean. The fight broke apart only when Tessa got between them, pushing both boys back. This is insane, she said, voice trembling. We were supposed to be friends. No one responded. The group splintered like glass. Dev walked off toward the trees. Callie ran the opposite direction, toward the lake. Nathan sat back down at the fire, fists clenched. And Leo just watched it burn. Time passed. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Tessa kept asking, where's Callie, and has anyone seen Dev? Number 1 had Nathan was drinking again, staring into the fire like it owed him something. Leo said nothing. At one point, he walked into the woods too. Said he needed to piss. Was gone too long. When he came back, his shirt was damp. His knuckles scraped. Mara would later note that detail. At around 3:12 a.m. According to Tessa's Instagram story, which was saved only by sheer leukodim, shot of the fire flickered on screen. No faces, just sound, a crack, a splash, someone yelling something unintelligible, and then silence. The video ends 3 seconds later, in the official timeline. That was the moment the SUV must have entered the lake. But that timeline had holes, because according to Callie and Nathan, they never heard anything. They claimed they woke up and the others were gone. And Tessa, she didn't get to clarify her side. She was found in that back seat. Dead. Hours later, the sun rose. Only 2 sleeping bags remained unzipped. Dev's was empty. So was Tessa's. Leo's phone was still charging by the fireplace. Callie sat on the porch, knees pulled to her chest. Nathan paced the kitchen. They didn't speak for almost an hour, just moved through the cabin like ghosts. Eventually, Nathan muttered, "Do we call the cops?" Callie looked up, eyes hollow. "And say what?" "That 3 people vanished." She shook her head. "No one will believe us. Not after last night. Not with blood on your hands." Nathan paled. "It was one punch, was it?" Later, when the police came after, the Airbnb owner got suspicious. They gave a clean version. Everyone had been drinking. The others said they wanted to check out a second lake. They packed up and left around 2. Nathan and Callie stayed behind, slept through the night. No screaming, no crash, just confusion. The lie rolled off their tongues like smoke. The cops shrugged. There was no car, no bodies, no blood, no foul play, just another tragedy in the woods. But here's what they didn't say. That Dev and Callie had been whispering behind the cabin earlier that evening. That Leo had threatened to end this weekend with a bang. That Callie's fingernails had traces of dirt under them. That Nathan burned his hoodie the next morning in the fire pit. They didn't mention those things, because they knew what those things looked like. And in the absence of proof, silence was safer. But 8 years later, the lake gave them back the car, and the truth began to rot its way to the surface. And Callie, in her trembling interview, had let something slip. He wasn't supposed to die. Not they, back in the present. Mara pieced the bonfire night together in her editing suite, layering phone footage, voice notes, and a haunting voiceover. She ended the episode with one question, echoing over the flickering video of the flames. What if the first person to disappear that night never made it to the water at all? The apartment smelled like sour whiskey and mold. The door was already open when Mara knocked. Not wide, just cracked. Like an invitation no one wanted to make. "Nathan," she called out softly. A grunt answered from inside. Then, the sound of something clinking, maybe a bottle followed by a cough that sounded more like a choke. She stepped in, closed the door behind her. The light was dim. Curtains sealed the sun out, like guilt sealing memory. A single lamp glowed. In the corner, barely cutting through the haze, Nathan sat on the couch, in the same clothes he wore during their last meeting. Eyes bloodshot, sweat soaking through his t-shirt. He didn't look surprised to see her, just tired. "I saw the video," he mumbled. "The one with the fire." Mara sat across from him. No camera yet, no questions, just silence. "You made me look like a coward." "You didn't need help with that," she said. He didn't flinch. "I want to talk," he said finally, "but you're not gonna like what I say." Mara pulled the recorder from her bag. Set it between them. The red light blinked. "Recording it. Started before the lake," Nathan said, his voice raspy. "Something changed. We weren't friends anymore. Not really." He stared at his hands like they were foreign. There was this tension. Like, we all knew something was about to break. "You mean the affair?" Nathan shook his head. That was just the match. The fire was already there. He closed his eyes, let out a breath like it hurt. "After the fight, I remember Dev walking off. Leo went after him. Callie too, eventually. Tessa stayed back, crying. I started drinking. Hard. Mara didn't interrupt. She barely breathed. I heard yelling in the woods," he said. Couldn't make out the words. Then his voice cracked. Then I heard a splash. The silence between them thickened. I ran, he said. I found Leo first. He was pacing, shaking. Said it wasn't supposed to happen like that. Like, what? He didn't say. And Callie, she was just, standing there, staring at the water. Her shoes were off. Her hands were covered in mud. Mara leaned forward. Was Dev already in the lake? Nathan nodded slowly. Callie kept whispering something. Over and over. I couldn't make it out. But I remember one line. What? He looked her dead in the eye. She said, he chose me. Mara's breath caught in her throat. You didn't call anyone. No, Nathan said. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? That it was my fault. He ran a hand through his greasy hair, fingers trembling. We buried it. All of it. Tessa kept crying, wouldn't stop. Said we had to go to the cops, that it was an accident. He paused. She was dead the next morning. Mara felt her stomach knot. Are you saying someone killed her? I don't know, he snapped. I passed out on the couch. When I woke up, Dev was gone. Leo and Callie were silent. Tessa, was gone too. Then we made up the story. About them leaving. Why? Because no one would believe the truth, which is Nathan looked away. That we let our friend drown, and maybe someone helped. The room was dead silent for a beat. Then Mara asked, who pushed him? Nathan didn't speak. She asked again, louder, who pushed Dev? He clenched his fists. Face crumbling. I don't know. Do you think it was Leo? I don't know. I don't know. His voice broke. A sob escaped. He hunched forward. arms over his face like he was shielding himself from judgment. I remember the splash. I remember someone gasping, then silence. He was shaking, barely holding himself upright. I didn't even go in after him, he whispered. I just stood there, watching the water ripple. Like a coward, Mara pressed stop on the recorder. You're not telling me everything, she said. Nathan lifted his head. His eyes were different now, vacant, distant. I know, he whispered. Then his body lurched. Mara sprang forward just in time to catch him before he collapsed off the couch. His skin was cold, clammy. He was sweating through his shirt. Mumbling something she couldn't understand, she grabbed her phone, hands shaking. 911, what's your emergency? I need an ambulance. My friend's collapsed. He's not breathing right. Asterisk, what's the address, ma'am? Asterisk, she rattled it off, kneeling beside him, hand on his chest. His heartbeat thudded under her palm like a trapped bird. Nathan, she said urgently, stay with me. His lips moved, but one word, barely audible. She leaned closer, Leo. Then he went still. Mara sat on the curb outside the ambulance 10 minutes later. Fingers locked in her lap, recorder in her pocket. Nathan was inside, hooked to machines. Stable, they said. Dehydration, stress, alcohol poisoning. But Mara knew what it really was, guilt, and maybe finally a name. She got into her car, pulled up her search bar, typed fast. Leo Bennett. Missing persons report. Nothing. Leo Bennett. Arrest. Still nothing. Then she tried something else. Leo Bennett. Obituary. One result. A local paper. Dated 3 years ago. She clicked it. Her mouth went dry. Leo had died in a car crash just outside Nevada. Single vehicle. No foul play suspected. Buried by his parents in a private service. No survivors. No statement. Another secret, 6 feet under. But Mara didn't believe in coincidence. Tessa Dev, Leo, one after the other. That left only one, and she was still breathing. Callie. The email came from an address Mara didn't recognize. Rosie Denton 33 at harrowmail.net. Subject. I saw something that night. Body. You're looking for answers. I might have one. I still remember the girl in the rain. You can come by, if you're not afraid of ghosts. Attached was a phone number and an address a mile from Lake Harrow. A cottage buried deep in the woods, Mara. Reread the message 4 times. Not because she doubted its content. She was long past that. Because something about it made her heart ache. The girl in the rain, the tires crunched down the gravel. Path like bones underfoot. Mara pulled into a clearing wrapped in pine and silence. The cottage looked like it had grown straight out of the earth of creeping up stone walls. Windows clouded by time, smoke curling from a thin chimney like a whisper. She knocked twice. The door creaked open, revealing a woman in her late 70s. Her grey hair was pinned back neatly. Thick glasses framed sharp, observant eyes. You, Mara, the woman asked. Yes, Rosie. She nodded. Come on in then. Don't mind the cats. There were 3 of them, all silent, all watching her. Like they'd already judged her guilty, Rosie poured 2 cups of tea. Sat across the table from Mara in a creaky wooden chair. The place smelled like old books and cedar. I was wondering when someone would come back asking, Rosie said, rapping. Both hands around her cup. Never imagined it'd be you. Me. You look like Dev. Around the eyes. Mara's throat tightened. I lived here long before the lake got trendy, Rosie began. When it was still for locals and loners. That summer, there were more kids than usual. Loud ones. Drunk ones. She sipped her tea. But that group, they were ... different. Not loud like the others. Tense, like something was always about to go wrong. Mara leaned in. What did you see? Rosie pointed. To the back of the cottage. Window by the kitchen looks over the slope down to the east trail. That weekend, I was up late, couldn't sleep, storm was coming in. You could feel it in your teeth. It was maybe 2:30 in the morning when I heard shouting, she said. Real frantic, like someone had lost something, or someone. Mara's pulse quickened. What kind of shouting? Rosie closed her eyes, trying to recall. One voice, male, screaming something like, "Come back." Or "Don't leave me here," hard to make out over the wind. Then tires. Fast spinning out, gravel flying. "Did you see the car?" "No, just heard it. But I saw what came after." Rosie's voice dropped. A girl, alone, standing. In the clearing across the trail. Soaked to the bone, she wasn't yelling. She wasn't moving. Who was it? Rosie looked Mara straight in the eye. It was Callie. Mara felt her stomach drop. "Are you sure?" She looked right at my window, like she knew I was watching, didn't blink, didn't cry, just stood there. Rain dripping off her hair, arms limp at her sides. Was anyone else with her? Rosie shook her head. Not that I saw, but she looked, gutted. Like someone had ripped the insides out of her and she was just standing there out of habit. Mara jotted notes rapidly. Did she say anything? No, but she mouthed something. Rosie paused. I think it was, "He's gone." They sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled softly. One of the cats jumped into Rosie's lap. "You didn't tell the police." "I tried," Rosie said bitterly. "Left a message. No one followed up." That was back when they still thought the others just ran off. Mara nodded. They didn't want complications. Or they didn't want to dig too deep, Rosie muttered. This town's full of secrets. And secrets don't like sunlight. Mara stepped out back to the kitchen window. It overlooked a steep hill, blanketed in moss and damp leaves. Down below, the trail forked one path toward the lake, one toward the road. She could see it. The silhouette, the rain, the sound of a car speeding away. Callie left behind, not crying, not chasing, just watching. Not the girl who ran, not the girl who stayed. Back inside, Rosie handed Mara an envelope. "I kept this," she said. "Didn't know if it meant anything. Thought maybe it was trash. But something told me not to throw it out." Inside, the envelope was a burnt corner of a photo at once, but now dry and brittle. 5 teens. Only half of them visible. A glimpse of Dev's shirt, Tessa's laughing eyes, a blur that might have been Leo. The rest scorched away. Mara recognized the scene. It was from the dock. But this wasn't the photo the world saw. This one had been burned deliberately. She drove back in silence. The photo on the passenger seat, her mind racing. If Callie had been left behind, it shattered the original narrative. The SUV hadn't left without her. It had left her. The question now was, why? Was she spared, or excluded? Back at her motel, Mara set up her laptop and replayed Nathan's confession. "I remember the splash, someone gasping, Callie whispering, 'He chose me.' Now Rosie's words layered on top, she mouthed, 'He's gone.' A pattern was forming, a subtle, sinister one. Everyone had a version. None of them matched, but all of them agreed on one thing. That Dev didn't just drown. She added a new title to her content queue. Episode 7. The one who watched thumbnail, a girl. In silhouette under a rainstorm, she included Rosie's voice aged, haunted, resolute. It wasn't proof, not by police standards, but to the internet. It was gold. The comment section blew up in hours. Callie's the last piece. He chose me. She left him to die. That old lady is a real one. Hashtag respect Trozy Mara. Couldn't sleep that night. She kept replaying Rosie's account. The image of Callie in the rain. Watching the car vanish, and the line that wouldn't stop echoing in her mind, "He's gone." But what if she wasn't just talking about Dev? What if something inside Callie died that night too? At 3:04 a.m., Mara's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, answered. A woman's voice. Hoarse, quiet, terrified. "Stop digging." "Who is this?" Mara asked. The line went dead. No caller ID, no trace. Just that voice. Familiar, shaking. Shaking. Callie, the forensic team. Hadn't expected anything usable. 8 years underwater tends to eat through technology, but the cold of Lake Harrow had slowed corrosion, and when they cracked open the rusted SUV and found the phone wedged beneath the passenger seat, sealed in an old Ziploc bag, Someone had been smart enough to hope. Dev's phone. The call came at 6:22 a.m. Mara was mid-edit, eyes burning from hours of color correction, when her screen lit up. Oregon State Cold Case Forensics Unit, she answered with the same instinct that had kept her chasing shadows for years. "We got something," said the voice on the other end. "Actually, we got to some things." The device was fried, but the SD card, miraculously intact. And while most of it was corrupted, blown-out fragments of group selfies, music playlists, old App Data 2 files had survived, a voice note, and a video they emailed both over. No warning, no context. Mara stared at the file names. VN_4568_Cali.mp3vid_1223_Tessa.mp. For her hands trembled as she hit play. File 1. Callie's voice note, -1 minute 14 seconds background, faint wind, nervous, breathing. Then, her voice fragile, clipped, panicked. "Dev. Hey, it's me. I don't know if I'll send this. I'm just thinking. You can't tell him, not yet, he'll lose it. You saw what happened with Leo. I need time, okay? Just time, please. Wait until after the trip. I promise I'll talk to him. But if you say anything now, it'll explode." A pause, swallowing. "He doesn't know about us, not really. He thinks he does, but he doesn't see me the way you do. He never did." A gust of wind, then a final whisper, "Promise me, don't tell him yet, please." The clip ended with static. Mara sat frozen. So, it had been real. The affair, the secrecy, the threat of exposure. But who was he, Nathan, Leo, and what exactly had exploded? File 2. Tessa's video -22 seconds, the footage was dim. Shot on front camera, late at night. A close-up of Tessa's face, lips pale, mascara smudged. She looked scared. "If anything happens, this is for proof," she whispered. "Something's not right. Dev's jumpy. Callie's been crying all night. Nathan's drinking again. But it's Leo. I think Leo knows. He's watching us. Like he's waiting for something to happen." She looked over her shoulder, blinked. Her lips parted like she was about to say more. Then, the screen shook violently. A flash of light, a sharp gasp. End of video. Mara hit pause, sat back, mind racing. This wasn't a conspiracy theory anymore. It was a confession. It was fear caught on camera. Tessa knew she hadn't just been collateral damage, she'd seen it coming. Mara included both files in her next episode. Not the full clips, just fragments. Enough to rattle the internet. The voice note was layered over slow-motion shots of the lake. The video flickered with the words, "He knows." Over 700,000 views in 24 hours. She titled it, "Recovered." The phone that exposed a lie. And the public erupted. Commenters went wild. Callie lied again. Leo was the puppet master. Tessa was the only one trying to do the right thing. This isn't a cold case. This is a buried crime. But Mara wasn't done. She took the files to an old contact. Sasha Vero, a digital forensics consultant who'd helped her crack her second ever case. Sasha scrubbed the files clean, filtered ambient noise, and extracted metadata. She called Mara back with 2 key revelations. 1. The voice note had been recorded the morning of the bonfire. Callie had lied when she said she didn't know Dev's plans. She knew exactly what he wanted to say and who he was going to say it to point to. Tessa's video, the flash at the end, wasn't the sun or the fire. It was a headlight. Someone had pulled up behind her, maybe in a vehicle. Maybe holding a flashlight, but someone had seen her recording. Maybe they'd even taken her phone. That night, Mara printed stills from the video. She enlarged the final frame, tweaking brightness and contrast. A faint silhouette hovered behind Tessa, blurred by motion, half in shadow, male, broad shoulders. Face unrecognizable. But the stance was familiar. She'd seen it in bonfire photos. In the only group selfie that remained after Callie burned the rest, it looked like Leo. But Leo was dead, and so was Tessa and Dev. Only Callie and Nathan remained. Nathan had confessed enough to collapse under it, but But Callie, she was still walking around, still pretending, and now she was calling in the middle of the night to whisper, "Stop digging." Mara returned to the footage from Rosie's cottage. Callie standing alone in the rain, the way her arms hung, the way she mouthed, "He's gone." But maybe it wasn't grief, maybe it was relief. She cross-referenced timestamps. Tessa's video was shot around 3:09 a.m. The SUV was believed to have entered the lake between 3:10 and 3:15 a.m. The last confirmed sighting of Leo, according to Nathan, was around 2:50. Mara stared at the timeline. She'd mapped across her hotel wall with red yarn and pins. There was a 5-minute window. A vanishing, a possible chase, a possible push. She needed one more thing. Mara texted Sasha, "Can you pull GPS traces from the phone?" The reply came minutes later. "Already tried. Location history wiped." But the last ping was by the boathouse trail. 3:12 a.m. The exact time of the splash Nathan had heard, and only one person had been unaccounted for. In those 5 minutes, the story was falling apart. But the truth, it was finally taking shape. Someone had made sure Dev never told Nathan. Someone had seen Tessa recording and ended her silence. Someone had driven that car into the lake, and someone had burned every photo, except the one fragment Rosie saved. Mara sat down to script the next episode. This one wouldn't be speculation. No more theories. It would be called What Callie Did. She hit record. It started with a password, and, like all dangerous truths, it had been hidden in plain sight. When Sasha texted Mara, check Dev's signal backups. Some of the chats were archived in the cloud. She didn't expect much. After all, Dev's account was 8 years dormant. Most of it corrupted. But one chat group had survived. An encrypted, hidden thread named Clean Slate 3. Participants, Callie, Nathan. Leo. Mara stared at the screen. Her breath caught when she saw the final message, timestamp, 1:27 a.m. The night of the bonfire, right between the fight and the first splash. She clicked. The chat was short, sparse, but every word felt like an earthquake. "Leo, we need to talk. This is spiraling." "Callie, what the hell did you say to him?" "Callie, I didn't say anything. He overheard." "That's not my fault, Nathan. He's gonna go to the cops. You saw how he looked at you." "Callie, I'll handle it." "Leo, handle it how? This isn't like skipping curfew. Someone got hurt." "Nathan: Not our fault. He came at me. I reacted. That's not murder." "Callie, we make a pact. Tonight, what happened at the lake stays at the lake." Leo: Jesus. "Nathan, if we don't agree now, we all burn." One version, one story, no loose ends. "Leo: Fine. But I'm not going to prison for this." "Callie, then don't be stupid. Stick to the plan. We leave at dawn. We say, they disappeared. Nothing else." Dev walked off. Tessa went looking. "Leo, you stayed asleep." "Nathan and I didn't see anything." "Leo, this is messed up. I'm serious. If anyone asks, I might tell them the truth." "Nathan, you do that. You die with us." Then nothing. The thread ended. No emojis, no goodbyes, no let's be okay. Just digital silence preserved, like a black box from a crashed plane. Mara scrolled up and down, over and over, until her eyes blurred. Callie, Nathan, Leo. A pact to lie, a pact to bury what happened, a pact to survive. But Leo didn't survive, did he? He died in a single car crash 3 years later. Declared accidental. Case closed. But now it looked like murder. Mara forwarded the entire thread to Sasha, and then copied it into her story outline. The narrative had changed again this time. Irreversibly, she added a sticky note to her wall. The pact, to 1:27 a.m. Dev. Dead. Tessa silenced. Leo scared. Callie, in control. It wasn't about panic, it was about power. She called Nathan, left a voicemail. "You never said anything about a pact. Why not? What else are you still hiding?" She didn't expect a call back, but someone else did. 2 hours later, her phone lit up. Unknown caller. She almost didn't answer. but something instinct maybe made her pick up. It was Callie. Her voice was calm, measured, chillingly blank. He wasn't supposed to run. Mara froze. Leo, she whispered. He panicked. He said he was going to turn himself in, that he couldn't sleep, that he still saw Dev's face every night. Silence. We told him to wait, that it would fade, that no one would care anymore. But he didn't believe that. Mara's grip tightened. So what happened? Callie's breath hitched, almost inaudible. He called me that morning, from Nevada. He said he was going to walk into a police station. I told him to meet me first. Just to talk. Another pause. I never made it to the diner. They found his car wrapped around a tree the next day. Mara felt her throat go dry. Did you kill him? Callie laughed softly. No, but I didn't stop him either. The line went dead. Mara stared out the motel window for a long time. Her reflection flickered against the glass like a ghost. This wasn't just a story anymore, it was rot. Spreading from one bad night, consuming every life it touched, she called Sasha again. Can you pull crash records from Nevada in late 2022? Anything odd about Leo's accident? Sasha called back an hour later. There's something. What? No autopsy was done. What? Why not? His parents requested no investigation. Immediate cremation. Case was closed before it opened, but the scene photos, they're weird. No skid marks, no sign of braking. Like he just drove off the road. Mara felt her chest tighten, or like someone ran him off. She hung up and added another line to the board. Leo wanted out. Callie didn't let him go. It was always her, the steady voice, the orchestrator, the girl who cried at the right times, trembled in front of cameras, whispered, don't dig into voicemails like she was the one being hunted. She wasn't the hunted, she was the hunter. Mara didn't sleep that night. She stared at the screen, at the chat thread, at Leo's final message. I might tell them the truth. He never got the chance, and now only two remained. One broken, one dangerous. The email came from a private investigator Mara didn't remember hiring. Subject, you've been chasing a ghost. Attachment, a single PDF. File name, Callie_Simmons_identity_record.pdf. Mara opened it and stopped breathing halfway down page 1. Callie Simmons didn't exist before September 2017. Not legally, not socially, not anywhere, no school records, no social security traces, no childhood digital footprint. Then suddenly a new ID, college enrollment under a provisional status, a new last name, a new city. 2 months after the weekend at the lake. Mara paced the motel room. Rereading the report over and over, Callie Simmons was an alias, an identity constructed after something. After someone. She dropped into the chair and whispered to herself, who the hell have I been talking to? She called Sasha. Pull everything on the name, Callista Riker. The original name in the PI report. Start in Montana, then Oregon. Sasha didn't ask questions. 2 hours later, Mara's phone lit up. Sasha, you're going to want to sit down. The name, Callista Riker, pulled a string of sealed records, mostly juvenile. But one incident stood out, 2014. Montana, missing persons report. A 7-year-old girl Callistove vanished for 5 days, then reappeared, disoriented, covered in scratches. Said she couldn't remember where she'd been. The case was closed quietly, but there was more. In that same month, a local boy, her ex-boyfriend, died in a river accident, fell from a bridge. No witnesses, no suspects. Case unsolved. Mara stared at the timeline. Disappearance. Boyfriend dies, girl reappears, memory gone. Then 3 years later, a new name emerges, Callie Simmons. 3 years later, Dev dies. Tessa disappears. Leo dies. 3 years later, a second disappearance, a second I don't remember. She opened her footage archive, pulled up Callie's first interview again. The way her hands trembled, her voice cracked. Not when asked about the friends. Not even when shown the drone footage. Only when Mara asked, were you in love with Dev? That had triggered something deeper. Not grief. Panic. She started digging into the original name Callista Riker. The old Facebook page still existed. Buried. Under years of inactivity, just a single public post. September 17, 2017. A new profile picture. Black screen. Caption. Starting over. Don't look for me. And in the comments, one reply, you can't erase everything, Cal. From a deleted account, Mara called the Missoula County Sheriff's Office and asked about the old Riker case. She used her cold case credentials, dropped keywords like documentary project, possible linkages, digital trail. The officer sighed, sealed records. But yeah, I remember that name. Weird one. Girl came back with no memory, claimed she wandered off. The boyfriend Dilly something drowned the same week. We all knew something was off, but no evidence. Exactly. The weight of it settled on Mara like a fog. This wasn't a one-time tragedy. This wasn't an impulsive lakehouse meltdown. This was a pattern. A trail of vanishings and deaths, always followed by a blank space in memory, or mabia, very selective. 1. She pulled the recovered video from Tessa again, re-watched the final seconds. The flash, the silhouette, the fear in Tessa's eyes. What if Tessa had figured it out? What if Leo hadn't been the only one suspicious? What if Callista had done this before? Mara mapped it out on the wall. 2014. Missoula Callista Riker disappears, boyfriend dies, mysteriously no charges filed. 2017 Lake Haranu name Carly Simmonsdev, Tessa, and Leo Carly walks away again, same pattern. Different names. Different bodies. That night, Mara uploaded a teaser image to her channel. The girl who wasn't there, black and white, a figure on a dock. Half in shadow. Caption. Next episode, her real name wasn't Callie. She didn't expect sleep. She didn't get it. At 3:11 a.m., her motel phone rang. Not her cell. The one no one had, the number 2. She stared at it, heart pounding, picked it up, nothing, then a whisper. Static soft. Stop. You think you know everything, but you don't. You're digging up ghosts. Leave them buried. Who is this? Mara demanded. Silence. Then a click. She knew that voice.com/steady, cold Callie, or rather, Callista, and she wasn't warning Mara, she was threatening her. The past wasn't buried, it was alive, and it wore someone else's name. The final upload had no intro music. No jump cuts. No monetized ad break. Just Mara. In frame, eyes raw. Voice low. The walls behind her cluttered with pins and string and grief. This isn't the ending you want, she began. But it's the one we have. She laid it out in order. Dev, Tessa, Leo-gone. Nathan, collapsed under guilt, fear, and silence. Callisial name, Callista Riker, walking freely. Shielded by legal shadows and a missing murder weapon. The recovered footage from the dock wasn't enough. The chat logs weren't enough. Nathan's hypnotherapy. Memories weren't enough. Nothing was enough. Not for a courtroom, not for closure. Yet the world had already judged her, the day the final episode went live. Hashtag Callista Riker trended #1. Globally. Internet sleuths bombarded her new employer, her husband, her community. She was arrested within 72 hours. Mara flew to Oregon to attend the hearing. She expected something, a breakdown, a denial, a final, twisted confession, but Callista just stood in that courtroom like a statue. No tears, no reaction, not even as the prosecutor read out the names. Dev Patel, Tessa Vaughn, Leo Vargas. 3 names. 3 lives. 3 deaths no one was officially charged with. The judge called for recess. The DA pulled Mara aside. We're going to lose this, he said flatly. There's no forensic link. No murder weapon. And she's smart enough to stay silent. Mara nodded slowly. She already knew. When the trial collapsed, Nathan disappeared for 2 days. Mara found him through a hospital alert brought in by a neighbor after he collapsed in his front yard. Overdose. Accidental. Maybe the doctors pumped his stomach. He survived barely. But something in him didn't come back. The family's Dev's mother, Tessa's sister, Leo's father, they sent Mara messages. Some grateful, some angry, all broken. She didn't blame them, she wasn't the justice system, she was just a woman with a camera, a drone, and a deep need to understand why, and in the end, she still didn't. But the lake remembered. 2 months later, in late fall, Mara returned to Lake Harrow. This time, she didn't bring her crew, no mic, no gear, just a single bouquet of lilies. Clutched in her shaking hands, she stood at the same cliff where the drone first revealed the SUV. The leaves were turning. The water still as glass. She whispered their names into the wind. Dev, Tessa, Leo. Then she let the flowers fall. They drifted out, slowly, silently, swallowed by the surface. She thought of Nathan still in rehab, barely speaking. Of Callie vanished again. Somewhere in California. Rebranded, remarried. Her face scrubbed off. The internet. Her crimes legally unprovable. Of Rosie, the elderly witness who passed away the week after Callie walked, her heart just stopped. Mara never told anyone. But she'd always felt Rosie knew more than she ever said. Some silences way heavier than words. Back home, Mara sat at her desk and watched the final video again. She hated it. It wasn't clean, wasn't satisfying, didn't tie into a perfect bow. But that was the point. True crime wasn't fiction, it didn't end with confessions and convictions, it ended with loss. With questions with water that never gave back everything it took. She thought of the title she'd given the series, Friends Vanished on a Lake Trip. 8 years later, a drone makes a chilling discovery. Millions had watched it. Millions had commented, theorized, investigated from their laptops. But in the end, none of it brought them back. She closed the project folder, deleted the raw footage, archived the caseboard, and sat in silence. Outside, rain began to fall off steady, like whispers on a roof. Mara stood and walked to the window. The world kept moving. The world forgot, but the lake remembered. The ripples, the lies, the footprints on the dock. The pact made in the dark. She turned off the light, and for the first time in years, she let herself cry.